Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at ADA. This is going to be a lower time frame video. We do have a higher time frame video up above, so check that out if you haven't already. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Okay, so within the previous video, we were talking about a couple of options. So we're going to go over some of the higher time frame stuff first, and then we're going to go over the internal waves. Now, within this idea here, what we were saying is there's two ways that I was looking at it. So either we were looking at this as a potential fourth and then looking for this as a fifth wave to the downside, or potentially we are still within this idea of a fourth wave. We were also talking about the possibility here that we could have this as also a B wave and then looking for this as an ABC to the downside, in which case what we were looking for was this area here between this 1-to-1 level and this 1-2-3-6. Now with this idea here, effectively what we'd be saying is we want to see a 5-wave move. So we don't really have this at the moment. So because of that reason, what we'd be looking for over here would be the potential of something like a diagonal pattern for this C wave to the downside. But we need to just also be aware that there is still the potential this could look to push up first before actually looking to come down. So there's a couple of ways that we were looking at this. We were saying that what we were on the lookout for here is because we have 3 waves up and 3 waves down, what we could start to get is a 5-wave move to the upside. Now it is also possible this could develop as 3, 3, and 3, in which case we could potentially rather look for targeting out this area of this 5459 to this 4246. Now if we're looking at this idea, what we'd be saying is that we're just going to get a 3-wave move to the upside. 1-to-1 would actually be here at this 4246, but effectively if we start to get something over here like a diagonal pattern, what we could potentially do is actually look to push up higher into this box, looking for this area of this 6376 to this 4959. But the problem that we have within here is that if we're going to look at this as a C wave to the upside, what we'd have to say is that we're going to get something like this as a diagonal pattern. Now, within this, what we can argue is that this is ABC up into this high here, in which case what we'd be looking for is another 3-wave move to the downside, which we do have at the moment, and this would only remain valid for as long as we hold this 22 cents. If we do hold this level, what we could see is 3, 3, another 3-wave move to the upside, which would ideally take the high of this wave 1 here, but not cross this 41.11, and then we'd be looking for 3 waves down and then another 3-wave move to the upside. So this would be quite interesting because this could actually look to push us back up into this high and potentially even look to sweep this zone. We also do have a target box up here towards this 46.19 to this 44.83 that I will be keeping an eye on if we do see price looking to actually reverse and push to the upside. But we just need to be careful here because there is still the potential we could still be looking to break to the downside. Now if we're looking to break to the downside, the way that I would be looking at it currently would be saying that what we have here is actually this is our wave 1. We're looking at this as a 3-wave move up here for the wave 2, and what we're looking for is a 3-wave structure looking to push us back down here. And what I'd ideally like to see here is a move past this 22 cent region. So if we do just see this where we get this as A, B, and C, and we push down past this level, I will be looking out for this 786 to this 854, which would be this 2118 to this 2014, and that will be valid for as long as we continue to remain below these highs here and we start to continue to see the structure to the downside. If however we start to break down in a bigger way and we cross this 1807, this effectively invalidates the idea of a diagonal pattern here, and we'd have to reevaluate what this wave structure is in this case. Now we also discussed the potential here that we could have something like a 4th wave triangle where this is A, B, C, D, and E. Once again, with this idea, what we need to be careful of here is if we do just get a 3-wave move to the upside here, we could potentially look to actually reject again between this 33.87 to this 32.28. Now the idea within this is that we would have 3 waves to the downside, which is not allowed to cross this zone of this 22 cents once again, and then we'd be looking for a 3-wave structure to the upside. If we have completed here, then ideally what I would like to see here as a possible target for this E wave, potentially between this 32.96 to this 31.16 area. So somewhere within this zone would be a good E wave target. We can see this is aligning with the top trend line, the top end of this. So I will be keeping an eye on this if we do start to see a 3-wave structure to the upside which fails to break above this. This could align with the E wave. Now if this is an E wave triangle in this position here, what we'd have to then be on the lookout for is that this could mean that we start to see a 5-wave move afterwards. So we'd get confirmation of this by having 3 waves up, failing to break this C wave and then seeing that continuation back to the downside. And that could actually still mean that we are looking for that count where we're still looking for that possibility of coming down here to this 20 cent 59 to the 1604 level. So going to be keeping an eye on this lower zone here if we do continue to reject to the downside, and see exactly how we do it. Now, like I said, you know, this internal here, we're looking for either a diagonal to the downside, or potentially we could be looking at this diagonal up. It is also possible that if we are looking at this idea of a flat correction, where this is A, we're looking at this as a 3-wave move down for B, we could still be within this B wave. Now, within this idea, what we'd be saying is that the B wave is not completed, and this is W, we get X. We get this is the 3-wave move down, we get 3 waves up, and then we see another 5-wave structure to the downside. Now, this would look to potentially push us down lower here towards this 1820 at a 1-to-1 level. However, we have actually hit the 0.618. So it is possible, even though it's quite rare to see this happen, that our Y wave could actually complete into this zone already, because we've hit this 0.618, but the structure is still within this internally. Could actually mean that we have a little bit more downside looking to play out here. So if we are looking at this, what I'm going to be on the lookout for is, if this 3-wave move is completed and we move back up in 3-wave structure, what we could then see is a move back up into this 34.33 to this 30 cent region, before still having continuation down here, looking at this just as a bigger corrective structure, where this becomes A, this whole move becomes B, and we could still see a push to the upside afterwards in a bigger corrective pattern. So it's going to be very important how this reacts here. If we form a 3-wave move down that actually just breaks this low directly, then effectively what we could have is that this Y wave is looking for this 1-to-1 target, or alternatively we could be in the diagonal. So if we get 3 3 3 3 3, this would align with the idea of the diagonal. If however we actually hold this point and we start to push back up above this high, what we could have playing out here is that this structure could still be actually looking to play out in this idea of the flat, like I said here, where we could be looking for this higher zone of the 63.76 to this 49.59. Before we actually look for this move to the downside at a later point. So we're going to go over the lower degree counting here now. So if we are looking at a 3-wave structure to the upside, what we would be saying here more locally is that we have this is A, potentially this is B, and then we're looking for C. Now that 1-to-1 would look to push us here towards this 41.08, like I said, and then we'd be possibly looking for this as just a corrective move into this high. And we could complete this just as that bigger Y wave before looking for that continuation to the downside. So this is why we need to be careful. If we just see 3 waves up here towards this 42.46, this could be enough to just complete this as WX, and this is a Y wave to the upside. So this would be our X wave, this would be our Y wave, and then we still look for that continuation in that 5-wave idea to the downside after this point. So it's going to be very key what happens here. If we just get 3 waves up like this, this means that we're just going to have this as a corrective structure. There isn't really a way you can count this impulsively here, unless you were looking at some kind of an expanding diagonal, but it would be very untidy if that was the case. So I'm still not looking at this move to the upside as corrective. The only way I would potentially change this is if we start pushing up past 1618 and we start to develop a better structure here. But at the moment, I am just treating this as a corrective move. Now, if we are looking at this as a bigger A, B, and a C to the upside, it is possible that we could be done with this move to the downside. But the way that we'd have to look at it then is that we've had an extension within the 5th wave, where we would then say that this move here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, it's not as common to see something like this, so the way that I'm still just being mindful of here is that we could still be within the C wave. Now, if we are within the C wave, what I would be looking for here is the fact that this could be A, this could be B, and what we're looking for is that this is 1, 2, this whole move becomes our wave 3, and we're looking for the potential of a rejection in a wave 4 and then continuation down. Now, if we do see this area of rejection actually hold, which would be this 26.82 to this 25.18, what we could see is price could actually have an additional push down. 23.35 to 22.56 is going to be our potential target area here for this as a 5th wave. Now, if this is actually extending out, we always need to be careful, because there could be 1, 2, 1, 2. This could be even become another 1, 2 here, and then we start to see more impulsive price action to the downside, where we see price breaking below this 20 cent 64. That would align with this move actually extending internally here, and starting to break down. The key thing that's going to be in play here, in my opinion, is that if we do get this yellow count play out where this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we actually fail to take this 1.618, which is this 2184, we could potentially still look for that possibility of a reversal here to the upside, and then looking for that continuation. If we start to push down past this 2184, this becomes more likely that this whole structure here is actually 1, 2, this becomes our third wave. Would then look for a fourth and a fifth, which would mean that we'd be looking for this move to actually sweep these lows, and then we'd be looking for the possibility that this could actually complete either that B wave, or this could be the start of a bigger move to the downside. So we need to just be very careful. If we start to develop 5-wave structure from this point, it is possible that, like I said, this could just be A, B, and then we see C, and then we could still look at this as a bigger flat correction where this all becomes A, this becomes B, and then we see that C wave up. But if we start to break down here, we just need to be very careful that there isn't something else going on here where, you know, potentially we have 1, 2, 1, 2 or something like this, and then we're starting to extend out, even though it would be very strange to see it in that way because of the size of this structure here. As a wave 2, it wouldn't really fit that idea. But if there's something else like an extension in this fifth wave, and this is 1, 2 here, if we start to break down more aggressively here, we could potentially be looking at that impulse. But it's not really my primary expectation here. I am still looking at this as corrective. It would make a lot of sense to see a move up here, whether this move is just corrective and then we look to move down afterwards, or whether we actually just, you know, see this move come back up here, we find support and start to push up again. It's going to be important to see how we react after this point, but we do also need to be careful of this idea of both the triangle, which we would see a smaller bounce up towards this zone, and the idea that if this B wave is incomplete, we could see the same sort of thing, a small bounce back up into these levels before looking for one more push to the downside. And then from there, it's going to be really important to see what happens. The only way I can see this looking to complete after this move to the downside, if we are looking at this in this way, is if we form this as A, B, and C, and we start to get this move breaking below this level of this 22 cents, and then we see just a small break of it, and then we see another 3-wave move up, and then another 3-wave move down. Something like this is a diagonal. Otherwise, the structure, to me at least, is still indicating that the probability of a push to the upside is still likely here. We'll have to see whether it actually plays out though. Having a look at the daily CPR lines, what we can see is we've got lower CPR lines here being printed, but we are currently above these. Now these can potentially offer us support in this area of this 25.82 to this 25.63. If we do see price continuing to push up here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this 27.63 as a possible interaction. And then we also do have the yesterday's previous high, which is sitting at this 27.85. So going to be keeping an eye on that zone. If we do look to push up higher here, other targets for today would be this 29.77. We have this 31.73 and this 33.81 as potential upside targets. If we start to lose these central lines here, downside targets would be this 23.59. We have this 21.65, 19.55, and this level here of this 17.65 as potential downside targets. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those if we do see price looking to move in the directions. Now, if we are looking at the weekly, we can see that we've hit all the targets here for this week already. This is actually indicating volatility. We've broken down below it. Now, we can potentially look to find support now on this 25.90, which would align with that idea of those central CPRs on the daily. If we do see price looking to push up, we could find resistance here at 27.03, 2800, and this 2900 to this 2924. If we do see price looking to break back above these central lines, other targets for this week would be this 30 cents, 31.20, and this 32.18. So going to be keeping an eye on those zones if we see price looking to push up. Now, if we have a look at the monthly CPR lines here, what we can see is that price actually came down, and we've already had an interaction here with the S1 line. Now, because we've had an interaction with this, we need to be on the lookout for that. Price could potentially look to flip this back into support here and look to actually come back up and retest these central lines. If, however, we start to lose this level again, which is this 26.23, what we could see is price could get gravitated to some of these lower targets for this month, which would be this 21.74, and we have this 15.88 as potential downside targets. If we look to the upside here, like I said, we could find resistance here on these central lines, 32.82 to this 31.45 as a possible target. If, however, we look to flip those other targets for this month, become this 36.53, 42.39, and this 46.91 as potential upside targets for this month. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you'll find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it's free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.